Oh, yeah, it'd probably help if I slap that in there. So we're officially 3 months out, and in this episode, well, episode 13, we're back to our 23, well, it's 1923 Speedway Motors T-bucket here that we're working on. So we've got a few things that we got to get knocked out in this episode here. We got a lot of stuff that actually came in right behind me, so we're going to dig into the boxes and install all that stuff. But you're going to want to stick around to the end because, well, I got something you guys have been waiting for months. So if you're just joining the build, you haven't seen episode 12 or episode 1, I'll put a link for all that in the description above, so you can go check that out. But besides actually painting the bucket last weekend, installing some tail lights, doing some 3D printing, as well as, well, doing the Raptor lining for the interior of the bucket, we actually installed the Holley carb. We had a Rochester on here before, but the accelerator pump was broken. Installed our sketchy plate here, made some fuel line modifications, some small changes down here on the engine, as well as made some modifications to the bell housing on the TH350, which we'll talk again about that later because the Speedway body doesn't actually fit the TH350. Say we take a peek and see what's in these suckers. We'll save this one. I think I have an idea of what that one is here. This is the heaviest one here. We'll actually come back to this one. I haven't looked in any of these boxes yet, honestly. And this one, yeah, I did actually cut this one open here. Oh, nice. A box inside of a box. So I have some leaky valve covers and we need to get rid of them. So I ended up getting the well, I thought these were Felpro. I guess these are Speedway Felpro knockoffs. But I wanted this steel core gasket. I didn't want to deal with any cork on the valve covers. And then right here is our $20 special. Some tall, well, supposed to be painted, powder coated, who knows, valve covers here. So even on the other ones, the lip here is actually bent and it's leaking all over the place on both of them, as well as the breathers are they're just worn out here. So this will work pretty cool. I might get a nice, you know, heat protective emblem up here, Chevrolet, T-bucket, I don't know, something crazy. Maybe we can engrave it or do something fun there. So I think these will work pretty well for us. For the steering wheel here, we're just going with a 12. I'm trying to save as much room as I can in the T-bucket. The manual itself suggested actually going with a 15 and larger, but considering that I'm over 6 foot and there isn't a lot of room, I think a 12 is gonna be fine. Then we'll put like a tractor ball on it, something crazy like that. And then we went with a pretty significant dish in the back to save some additional room as well. So let's talk about our steering joints here because this is probably going to be one of the most expensive purchases you guys actually do. So the kit that they offer is over $600 and the universal joints that are actually offered in the kit are over $100 each, and they're I believe Bergeson or Borgeson. So I started searching around on the website and you have to essentially buy 3 of these, which ends up being about $400 hairs there. So I was looking around on the site and I found that they have their own house brand with their own little fancy laser etched logo there, and they're like 55 bucks. So I ended up getting 3 of these here to kind of cut the cost on everything. So I got this one here as well as another one, because if you're doing the Chevy setup, you're gonna need a total of 3. And on top of that, you're gonna need your double D rods as well. So when it gets time to actually do the Vega box and put in the steering, we're gonna be putting these in as well here. So it kind of works out where there's an adapter on the end, there's another adapter here, then it goes to a rod, then it goes to another adapter, and then to the actual steering shaft. Pack yet is the actual steering shaft, rod. This is the most important part here. And it looks like some of the hardware actually came loose in here. Oh, nice. Not sure where the foam came from because there's no foam in the box. So we're doing a quick detach up here, and essentially you just pull the pin here, take your steering wheel with you. There's no security on a T-bucket, so it's probably going to be your only way to actually stop somebody from driving off, unless you have, you know, super secret electrical cutoff like we did now. And then for the back here, that's where your other steering shaft is going to go right on the end of that, your universal joint. So the reason we're changing these out here is they leak, and they leak just sitting here. Haven't run the engine just yet, Now I have turned it over a few times, check in for top dead center and all that other stuff, which we had tons of issues with actually getting that set up. A lot of it stems from the guy who actually built the motor. It was a Facebook special, so we had no idea actually what we were getting except for what the little bore scope that we ran through it kind of showed the inside. So it seemed like it was okay, but you know how these things go. They get assembled incorrectly and causes a ton of issues. So valves were loose, all kinds of other stuff. So we got that taken care of, but still these things just leak all over the place. So when I started actually looking at the valve covers themselves, I found that the sides were actually damaged. So it looked like they had pinched something at some point, but being as they are about 50 years old, really don't expect too much. All right, so we're going with these Fel-Pro knockoffs. I really want to get away from that cork. We can probably reuse the cork because I mean it is the same stamp, but I'm just going to use these for personal preference. Oh. But we're going to keep our fancy little T-handles here. I do like the way they look, even though they don't match anything at all. And you're not going to be checking your valve covers all the time, so it's not really a convenience thing. Now, because of clearance in the back, and this distributor is just absolutely massive, I'm going to put the breather up front and not in the back itself. And the reason we're going to do this is, again, just back here, I feel like there's just way too much going on. So this is the one that has the most damage over here on the driver's side. So if you take a look at that lip there, you can see where the oil is just spewing out even when you go to fill it up there. So we're not going to reuse this gasket, obviously, just like the other side. I was thinking about maybe keeping it, but you know, the hoarder inside me says do it, but we are not going to. Man, look how thick these are. These are like, these leaked, and I don't know what what else to do. We're going to do the same thing over here. We're not going to alternate the breathers on both sides for that. And I went through the boxes again, and I still cannot find any of the grommets or the adapters for those breathers. So we'll have to make a phone call on Monday, which is no biggie there. We'll get that taken care of. All right, so we have a little bit of a design change here. Found some of our leftover ceramic coating that we used here for our radiator, and I think this is actually gonna look a little better. After getting the valve covers mounted, they really didn't match anything. And I know we're kind of going for a style that really doesn't really match anything or really no particular color scheme. I think this will actually look better on the body as well as the radiator here. And then our super banging PCV valve that we have here that doesn't really match anything either. So let's put her on. Oh, I can already tell these ceramic ones are gonna look really, really good here. So we'll mount them just like this for now and check out the PCV fitment. I may run the vacuum line to the back or right around the corner on this Holly. I have a few options on where I can go, but this looks way better than the other color we were working with there. It kind of really pops. So I want to get the spark plug cables all tidied up, but we're going to drop these blue ones like I was talking about. They're causing issues with the Blue Point timing gun, as well as a few other timing guns that we attempted to use on this motor here, and it just wasn't working out very well. A bunch of intermittent signals, and you can tell from how thick this stuff is, it's just not right. There's something in here that they're using within the cabling that you can't really get a good signal when you're trying to set on one. Tried flipping all the cables around, trying different cables out, but you're still getting the same intermittent signal. So we're just gonna dump these and put our MSDs on here. But I want it to look just a little more presentable. So we'll slap some of these little cable ties up here, or cable tracks, just to make it a little more presentable than what we got going on. See if we can slide these suckers in here. Ready to start this thing and drive this, to be honest with you. I'm kind of getting to a point with this project where, I'm not saying I'm getting tired of it, but I'm getting anxious. Like really, really, really anxious. Just want to get behind the wheel of it. See what it's actually like to drive a T-bucket. Never driven one, but been told that it's like your first time doing a certain activity. It can't be duplicated. All right, so the wire looms are on. I had to do just a little bit of final bending to get everything so it's not actually sitting right on the exhaust manifold there. May do just a little bit of slight changes in the end, but man, who says you can't make a 50 plus year old motor look pretty damn good? Wait till you see what I'm actually going to put on the top here. And yeah, it's 3D printed, but let's take care of these wires here. So let's jump over to our junk pile of all the stuff that we still have to install. So we're getting close. We're getting damn close. So picked up some Street Fires, MSD Street Fires. Probably I think it's the most budget brand that they actually have. About the cheapest one I could find, but they're not $10 spark plugs from Amazon, so that's all that counts. So these plugs aren't as pretty as the ones we're running now, but this should solve our little problem here. And I hope I bought HEI. Did I buy HEI? Oh yeah, I bought HEI just to make sure. What's this one in here? Oh, that's an extra. All right, and some extra looms and attachments and fun stuff. Yeah, all right, where do we start? So for a while we had to do everything in a 180 for these because we couldn't figure out if it was the gun or the actual plugs of what was going on. All right, which one is this? Number 8? I'll give a nice shorty for that one right there. Get rid of that sucker. Oh man, I got that in the wrong one there. All right, so then we'll go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not very good at counting, so bear with me here. And we got number 8. So I want to make sure, call me crazy, call me OCD, which I'm definitely not OCD, but definitely want the MSD logos on the top side so you can actually see them. Just looks nice. Adds a nice flair to a cheap motor. Makes a cheap motor look like an expensive motor. All right, we're locked in here. Now I got something else I need to put in, and then I think be ready to maybe fire this thing up. All right, so doesn't that look much better than, well, those down there on the ground? Probably end up just tossing those, but man, this motor is coming together. It's looking really, really good. So one of the other things too are the spark plugs. So I never even checked the spark plugs when we initially started looking into the motor and doing some timing. And these things look like they were almost original. They were clean, but the AC Delco logo that's on them has to be circa like 1950. But we need to put our intake on. I'm not gonna set it on or mount it just yet, but you gotta see what I ended up picking up. It took me a while to figure out what route I wanted to go with this. So with the help of the old 3D printer, I had to make a quick adapter here, but man, I think I made the right decision on the intake there. I was looking at the 17-inch round, going kind of old school, but I think this is going to be best here. Kind of goes with our style, but really we don't have a style, so it's like what the hell's going on, but hey man, that looks cool, right? Here's a shot from the front. You can take a look there. We do have a little bit of powder coat that's chipping, which I'll have to repair, figure out a way I'll address that. I got a powder coater, so we may bust that open and fix this and tape off the rest. But plug wire's all set up. The valve cover's looking nice and clean, matching the front there. You guys probably noticed the rear end looks a little bit different. So we'll talk about that in our last episode. But man, I think we are ready to start her up. Let's put our breather on over here. Probably run our vacuum, not too sure yet, or just leave it open for here. And then we're gonna change out these plugs really quick, and then we'll push this sucker out and start her. So when I originally started looking for the plugs, I was looking for an R45T to swap it out from the S's. I was reading they're a little better on these older Chevys, but you can tell that's definitely the older style AC right here. So who knows on the age of these. Now these are the exact R45, what is it? Yeah, TS, but the design is completely different there. Same amount of thread, it'll go in just as far, but they're about the cheapest plugs you can find for these. I think these ran about $2.98 each, which is actually pretty damn good for a spark plug, because typically nowadays an NGK is going to run you about $8 or $9 for iridium. These are just a cheap copper core, nothing special. So we'll just toss these. I'm not even going to keep them at this point. I got some baffles here that we're definitely going to put in, but I'm thinking we should probably go ahead and try to give this thing a start. We'll start it with some straight pipes essentially right now, which will probably be stupid loud, and then I guess we'll let it cool down and we'll slap these suckers in and, well, check it out. But I have a little secret when it comes to the cooling. What I like to use is whole milk, 2% milk, jugs filled with water. So we'll go ahead and top off the radiator just to make sure, and then we'll probably get it nice and burped. So it still needs a little bit, yeah, it's a little low. It's a little low. We sprang some leaks when we were doing leak down check. So it shouldn't take too much. Got it on some casters here. You can actually push it out. So we need to hook up our coil, send some power down that way, and we'll start her with no baffles. See how stupid loud this sucker is here. Give it a few pumps there. Where's our starter? We don't have any leaks in the transmission there, so we're good with that. So let's start her back up and bring it back up to temperature. I did not put the baffles in quite yet, but had to deal with one small leak. Here we go. Oh, yeah, it'd probably help if I slap that in there. All right, so we got oil pressure, we're good there, and then temperature. We'll let that come up for a little bit. I need to see the thermostat open there. I'm not really seeing it open quite yet. It's only hitting about 105 on the thermostat housing there. So this sucker should be opening here soon. And not quite yet. I think the gauge is off though, if you take a look at it. It's reading about 180 so far, but that's that's all the way in the back number 8 cylinder there, so give it a little bit longer. Well, we got ourselves a leak that just popped up, so I had to cut it off. I saw it dripping. I haven't really quite looked where it's coming, so it looks like it's coming from the lower radiator hose right in there, so we'll address that again, but that thermostat housing didn't open up, so we'll have to work on that and get that fixed. While the water's cooling down, we'll go ahead and install some baffles in this sucker here, and then I'm just going to pull out the thermostat. I have a replacement one, but we may just drill some holes into this one. I did test it before I put it in, but it's not opening at all. These hoses are cold to the touch. Bottom one, though, bottom one's definitely getting some hot water through it, so we'll address that as well there, but yeah, nothing there. Odd. Now the other night, I did go ahead and I rerouted the transmission cooler. I was going to take it up the side of the frame up front and just essentially drop it in the bottom, but I did an external cooler just down on the bottom, just like that, with a nice little short loop. So there you go. Now, where's it at? Right in there. So kind of sits on the end, especially with our channeled body. You shouldn't actually see it too much in there. Oh man, these things are still just a little hot. What the heck? I don't even know which way these go in. Oh, there we go. I figured it out. So we'll take some wagers here. I'm thinking, well, I don't know. We're gonna boil it, but I wanna see if there's any holes in this sucker, or possibly could be installed backwards. But we'll find out. What do you guys think? Backwards? Holes? What do you think we got going on here? Never liked this bracket anyways, but now we can see what we're working with here. Oh, one more. Ooh, that sucker's still hot. All right, so just as I figured, well, so the one that we took out, I ended up boiling it, and it was inconsistent on when it was actually popping open. So I got another one here. I ended up drilling some holes in it to kind of help with cavitation and whatnot. So we're gonna slap this one in. So I noticed earlier when this was running, we need to do a little bit of love to the belt here. It definitely squeals right when you go to accelerate, which tells me it's slipping on the pulley here, so we'll have to take a peek at that and see what we can figure out. There we look. Ooh, it's a little better. So I did lose a good amount of coolant here. So let's see how much we actually lost. This is about a half a gallon here. So once we get this temperature issue figured out, we'll go ahead and jack up the front, leave the top of the radiator off, and then we'll do a nice little burp. See if we can get the air bubbles out of here. This seems to have the same cavitation issues as my Pontiac, so shouldn't be too bad. So about 1.5 gallons. All right, what do you say we fire this thing up? Still have a couple more hours until code enforcement kicks in, so we should be able to get away with some of this for a little bit. And I think I found my oil leak right from the gauge. right, so we ended up, well, I wouldn't say we ran out of fuel. We were getting low, so I had to reprime the fuel filter right there. So this is what it sounds like with the baffles in it. So not too bad. We do have a little leak down here in the oil gauge, which we'll have to address there. And then we're gonna run the temperature back up, and then we need to check that and see if we're getting fluid. The pipe up top, the upper radiator hose is getting hot, so I do know that there is fluid pumping through there now, versus earlier we weren't getting anything. We did have a leak again down low. I got that addressed down low. For now, I had to reset the pipe back onto the nipple, retighten it up there. So we're looking good for right now, but we'll let it warm up and get up to temperature, I think. Where's my my thermostat at here? See what we're looking at. So the thermostat is a 160. So I went pretty low with this one with the holes drilled in it. Well, not too bad. And then what are we looking at on the temp gauge? 10, 20, 30. So it looks like it's actually pretty consistent now with what we're getting. It's pretty darn close. No longer getting that hot spot over there on cylinder 8. So we're getting some flow. What are we looking at here? 118, 120. So the gauge should be opening up here pretty soon. Oh yeah, we're getting close. Alrighty, so it's been running for about 10 minutes. And it's staying cool, so we're looking pretty good here. This thing is still really, this thing is just stupid loud, even with the baffles in it. So we may need to work on that just a little bit later. There's no way you could roll down the road for long periods of time. But let's give it a little whirl. Oh yeah. So what do you say we fire this thing up? Let's see if the transmission will shift through the gears. So we're in park now. Park, start. All right. Oh, reverse. Damn, I got lucky with this transmission. Let's see if it actually works when you put a drive shaft on it though. All right, gearheads, well that's it on the T-bucket there. We made some pretty good progress. The motor actually runs, transmission shifts for now, and it doesn't overheat and piss water everywhere. So we got pretty lucky on that. Next weekend, we're gonna do all the wiring, drop the bucket in, get that all mounted, work on the brakes, get some stuff bent here, get a nice shifter installed from B&M. I'm trying to really save room because, well, I'm 6 foot tall and pushing about 280. So I need as much room as I can get in the T-bucket, get the seats mounted, and hopefully within the next couple weeks, we'll go for a test ride there. So guys, until next time, hit the like and subscribe, leave any comments or questions that you have on the T-bucket build itself. And I look forward to seeing you guys in June when we actually do the long haul for the Hot Rod Power Tour. So we still have some time, we still have some stuff we got to put together, but man, I am saying a prayer to the T-bucket God that this thing does not lose momentum. So see you next time.